Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're stepping right behind the heavy, ancient gates of Jerusalem's old city to uncover what is basically a hidden world. We're going to explore exactly how the Armenians arrived here and, honestly, why they've managed to stick around for so long. So here's the central mystery you might be wondering about. Jerusalem's old city is fiercely divided into four quarters, right? And one of those quarters belongs entirely to the Armenians. How did a relatively small nation, one that literally never marched in with massive armies, manage to secure an entire quarter of this incredibly contested real estate for themselves? It's pretty wild when you think about it. Section 1. A mystery behind walls and gates. You see, everything in this story really comes back to three things: faith, identity, and memory. I mean, throughout history, massive empires like the Romans, the Crusaders, the Ottomans, they all violently marched into Jerusalem to conquer it. But the Armenians, they arrived completely differently. They came solely as devoted pilgrims. They were basically planting a peaceful flag of devotion rather than, swinging a sword of conquest. Section 2. The first Christian nation in Jerusalem. To really understand why they came, we actually have to look all the way back to the year 301. Under King Tiridates III, the Armenians became the very first nation to adopt Christianity as their official state religion. And to put that into perspective, that is decades before the Roman Empire did it. Because of that monumental shift, Jerusalem instantly became this physical anchor for their entirely new national soul. And we actually have tangible archaeological proof of these early roots. Discovered back in 1894, there's this gorgeous mosaic of the birds right there in Musrara, featuring Armenian inscriptions dating all the way back to the 6th century. It totally proves they weren't just visiting as tourists. They were actively building monasteries and putting together a really thriving community. Section 3. Survival against changing empires. So, how exactly did they survive this constant revolving door of empires? Well, mostly by tactfully adapting their institutions. It's fascinating. Under the Byzantines, they expanded to 70 monasteries. Then, when Islamic rule began around 638 CE, they smartly protected their rights by officially founding their patriarchate. Later, they allied with the Crusaders to expand the massive St. James Cathedral in 1099, and even leveraged Ottoman stability in 1517 to set up some of their core cultural institutions. They were always adapting. Actually, that famous quote from Ecclesiastes, "To everything there is a season," it perfectly frames their survival strategy. They completely understood that you just can't always fight the changing tides of history. So during the really harsh, oppressive periods, like the Mamluk era, they didn't wage war. Instead, they just retreated behind the heavy walls of their monastery, locked the gates, and protected their own. Like the quote says, there was a time to expand and a time to just quietly endure. Section 4, 1915, Genocide and Refuge. Now, during World War I, a truly horrific tragedy unfolded. While modern Turkey officially disputes this classification, international historians widely recognize the events of 1915 as a genocide, resulting in the tragic deaths of over 1 million Armenians. This psalm, from Psalms 137, really captures the sheer emotional weight of the survivors' experience. Forced completely out of their ancestral homelands, these deeply traumatized refugees miraculously made their way to Jerusalem. And for them, the quarter had to profoundly shift. It went from being a quiet ancient monastery into a desperate, vital sanctuary. The Patriarchate literally threw open its heavy doors, transforming practically overnight into a massive orphanage. And in doing so, Jerusalem actually helped save a shattered fragment of the Armenian nation. This moment was an absolute game changer. It permanently transformed the demographic reality of the quarter, and you can still see that impact to this very day. Section 5. Art and Print as National Identity. But from this immense tragedy came an absolutely incredible cultural renaissance. As we'll see, these refugees arrived with highly specialized skills. First, they urgently utilized the 1833 St. James printing press to publish books and preserve their ancient language, which really bound the community together. Meanwhile, master ceramic artists from the refugee community were commissioned to restore the Dome of the Rock, which ended up planting the seeds for an entirely new cultural legacy. Just picture it for a second. Those vivid, deep blue tiles, the intricate peacocks, and the floral patterns you see literally all over modern Jerusalem. Well, this iconic art form, Armenian ceramics, was born directly from the hands of those 1915 refugees. It became this visually stunning mechanism for them to preserve their national heritage, all while leaving a permanent, beautiful mark on their new home. Section 6.
a living community in a modern city.
Now, it's really important to know that today, this quarter is absolutely not just some open air museum. It's a living, breathing community. However, as you can see here, it is facing a pretty stark demographic challenge. Following that massive population spike from the 1915 refugee influx, today's numbers are unfortunately shrinking. Heavy economic and political pressures have caused a lot of youth emigration to places like Europe, America, and Australia. So, a population that managed to survive literal ancient empires is now being seriously threatened by modern migration.
Yet they fight fiercely to hold on to who they are, largely through their incredibly active institutions. By maintaining their Armenian language schools, conducting daily rituals in these ancient churches, carefully guarding rare manuscripts, and still operating the St. James printing press. I mean, this small group really anchors its identity against the overwhelming pressures of the modern Middle East.
And that leaves us with one final, really provocative thought. So, how exactly do you preserve such a small identity in a massive, heavily contested city? Well, the Armenians of Jerusalem proved that you do it with unyielding faith, a super deep commitment to memory, and the courage to adapt, all while keeping your community tightly knit together. It just goes to show, if you keep looking past the obvious landmarks, you'll find some of the most remarkable stories of survival hidden right behind the gates.